Good, Mark. Very good. All right. I gotta get this over here. I could not wait for this today. You know, I gotta be transparent with you guys. I said something on the radio 14 years ago, and I ended up getting fired for it. It was a complete mistake. Poor wording, locker room talk. I have to always own it. My company came out and with an apology, but the Bucks came in and parachuted in and said, he goes or we go. I was fired the next day. Now, Joe Bell, who ran 97.5, hired me 9 days later down at QAM in Miami. I know people have been fired for less. And I'm trying to figure this one out here before I bring Angelo in. So Odyssey, who, by the way, is trading at 10 cents. And when Angelo was there 3 years ago before the CBS guys, Odyssey was trading at about $45 a share. So their mismanagement of the company has WIP started sports talk. It wasn't FAN. It's IP. Guys like Angelo started this. So Odyssey said that with this Howard Eskin story, we have punished him. I was like, damn, Howard? Okay. Then I turned and looked around and went, okay, he's not been suspended? No. I'm trying to figure out where we are in this because I don't know. I'm confused. And the only person that can take the confusion away is Nostradamus. See this thing here? Right here? He's the only guy. Fresh from the Jersey Shore, our friend and former WIP morning show legend who worked at that company, Angelo Cataldi. I'll tell you something, what people are really talking about now, obviously, as we're getting ready for camp, we're 14 days out from the Eagle camp. But I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, what we're watching here with Howard Eskin. I just want to give you, not polluted or anything, Angelo, your take on how the company's handling it, how the Eagles are handling it, and really how WIP's handling it.
The whole city's talking about it. I'm deluged with emails every day right now. My website is getting crushed, angelocataldi.com, because I wrote a piece about it last week. And the only thing I have to correct you on, there's one entity that is not talking about it. It's WIP. They refuse to. I've got an email a day from somebody who tried this afternoon and was told we will, and rather impolitely, and was told, we are not talking about that. We will never talk about that. Click. And it's like, you know, when you leave a station after 33 years of what I did, there's a lot of people are going to say, oh, I missed you so much. But the people taking over for me are doing the job that I did. They're offering their opinions on what's going on in Philadelphia sports. And that's great. That's fine. This is the first time in 16, 17 months that I've been retired that I've been truly frustrated because I feel like there's nobody there anymore to hold the bosses of Odyssey and WIP accountable. Because the way they have handled this is a disgrace. And I said it in the piece I wrote. It is disrespectful to the audience, and it's just flat out wrong. Now, I understand why it happened. I even understand how it happened. But essentially, what happened is a legend in our town, Howard Eskin, while in the actually the Diamond Club at Citizens Bank Park, an exclusive area behind home plate, attempted to kiss a woman. She did not accept this, was affronted enough by it that she filed a complaint. And this was in May, and nothing came out for the better part of a month and a half. And negotiations went on behind the scenes. And finally, Odyssey, the parent company of WIP, came out and said, Howard Eskin is banned from Citizens Bank Park. Now, the irony of that is they don't have authority over Citizens Bank Park. They have authority over their airwaves. And they said he will not be allowed. They got the Phillies and Aramark, which runs the concessions and all. They got them to agree that Howard would not go there for the rest of the Phillies season. And then the Sixers piled it on because they've hated Howard for years and years. They said he's not allowed at our place either. We don't want him at the Wells Fargo Center, and he's not coming to our training camp. And somehow in the statement they released, they acknowledged that something had happened that was inappropriate. But then they said that Howard was banned, but not from their airwaves. He wasn't on Saturday. He only has one show a week for 2 hours. He wasn't on Saturday. That was already planned. And he will apparently be back this Saturday. No suspension for sexual harassment. That's your bottom line. If you're looking for your bottom line, sexual harassment acknowledged by the company, but no suspension, no firing, no recourse. And here's the kicker, Dan. No comment from Howard Eskin for almost a week now. No comment, not on social media, nowhere. Nothing, no statement, nothing. Do you know Howard Eskin's been talking in our city publicly for 50 years? He hasn't shut up this long once. This is the longest nobody's heard from Howard. Howard doesn't take vacation. Howard's there all the time. And suddenly he went into hiding. So what I mean, I know what they're doing now. They're gauging public reaction. And if the public reaction, if people are ready to go, okay, it was a minor thing, that's fine, then they'll just resume their lives and Howard will continue on, both in his show and more importantly, as a sideline reporter for the Eagles games on WIP. And then they did the dumbest thing. All that is wrong. You can't say that he's being banned from the ballpark, but he didn't do anything so bad that we're going to do anything on the station. You can't do that. It's one or the other. You run your station, don't you? You can't do it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, then this is it. Edict across the board. Nobody at WIP will be allowed to discuss this issue on the air. If it comes up, we don't want it to. We're screening callers to make sure it doesn't. If it comes up, you read the boilerplate statement that was made, which acknowledged he did something wrong and that they take really seriously. Danny, I've dealt with this my whole life there, but there are always going to be lawyers who are going to want you to shut up. Don't talk about that. Lawyers, would you get arrested? Don't talk. They have the same reaction when anything happens within a station. And you got to tell the lawyers to stay on their side of the road because you're the one who knows what should and shouldn't be talked about. And when you have a scandal, if you have a scandal and you don't talk about it, it's in-house. You don't talk about it, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You want two sets of rules. The next time a player has a scandal, let's say one of these players gets a sexual harassment charge, think WIP will talk about it? It'll be around. I know, I did it for 33 years. It was at the top of my list every day when there was a scandal. And now they're going to say, yeah, but if it involves us, no scandal there. We're not going to do that. We can control that. Well, they couldn't control me for 33 years, all the way back to when Howard Eskin had his previous scandal with a woman. And I think he was kind of an innocent victim there. He sent somebody flowers who was having a hard time, and her husband got jealous and killed her. It was a murder. It was 1997.
Wow. And
I talked about it on my show for days and weeks whenever anybody called.
Wow.
And we didn't, we'd go crazy about Howard. He was trying to, it was a gesture, but we talked about it because to me, there was almost never a time, Dan, where something was out of bounds. And when the lawyers start to make decisions that disrespect the audience, somebody's got to be there to stop them. And nobody was there to stop them. And I tell you this right now, and they know it's true. If I was still working at WIP and they said that to me, I would say, fire me. And I go on the next day and I talk about it.
That was going to be my next question. How would you handle this? And I think what you laid out there was this: you cripple a host and his audience when you don't address the things that are going on in your community and you skate around it. You lose audience with that, because then they don't think that you're genuine with them. It's not about sounding the best, it's not about being the best, it's about being the most genuine with your audience that you possibly can do to connect. And when you're escaping, there's good and bad in everything. So you have to address it. And to your point, so the next time there's an Eagles scandal or there's something that maybe Howie didn't want to answer, you're going to criticize them for not answering something when you can't answer your own in-house garbage that you have. How do people look at that? Angelo, is that just the new wave of where we are today because more teams have control over the narrative?
That's where it gets interesting. First of all,
But wait, Angelo,
answer the
how much
first
do you
part of
think the Eagles? How much do you think the Eagles are pressuring
well,
Odyssey as well?
there's two lines of defense. The first one is the lawyers. They're always going to want to stop you. If you get past them, now you get to the business entanglements. You're the flagship station of the Eagles, and Howard Eskin has been their mouthpiece for a generation, maybe longer. And he has, every time there has been a problem with the Eagles, he has taken up their side at the expense of whoever else was in the way. He was their mouthpiece. So the question you ask yourself now: the Phillies are out, the Sixers are out, the Flyers. I actually talked to the president because I used to work with Keith Jones. That they didn't take any stand on it because Howard never goes there. Howard doesn't do hockey, so it would have been dumb for them to say anything. So they didn't even get to the point where they were considering what to do because there was nothing they needed to do. But now you got the Eagles, and the Eagles are on the record saying, this is really bizarre, they are monitoring the situation.
What does that mean?
The situation happened in May.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, it means they're waiting to see how big the backlash is against Howard for this story. And the thing about it is, if they didn't like him, Howard would not only no longer be their sideline reporter, he would no longer work at WIP. They can save him if they would like, or they can get rid of him. They have the power of this situation.
Who's monitoring this? Who's the person that is the monitor of this when it comes to this? Is it the owner? Is it Howie? Is it Bob Lang?
See, the owner, it's probably Bob Lang on a day-to-day basis, the PR guy. But Jeff Lurie, whether you like him or don't like him, there's one thing about his public profile. He is extremely strong on women's issues. He is truly a woman's liber. He is a activist for women. And this is putting him in an unbelievably bad situation, because on the one hand, they've got their lapdog. They've got a guy who's always protected. He whenever he can, he discourages negative comments about the team. They could have the collapse they had last year, and Howard is still telling you how great the organization is. That's important to them. That they see that's valuable. The guy's been doing it more longer than anybody. But this is an issue where if women activists got involved, they would feel a heat where they might have to cut him loose. See, this isn't any longer about whatever it is he did or didn't do with that woman.
You think this is still evolving then?
Well, it's evolving. There's a rumor that would end the whole thing. It's just a rumor. I don't have this confirmed, but I can say it on a talk show because that's what talk shows do.
Right.
It was done, this incident, whatever it was, and I am not here to judge that because I have no idea what happened. But the incident happened in the Diamond Club. And the Diamond Club has surveillance cameras everywhere. it's probably on tape. And we all know, we've covered a bunch of stories like this. If a tape comes out and you see it, it's usually the end of the road for the guy who did something.
Look at what happened with Diddy. You know, he did something like 16 years ago or 9 years ago. The video came out, or just like what we saw with Kareem Hunt, or we even saw with Ray Rice. You know, you heard it, but when you saw it, it changed the narrative of the entire story.
Now, hold up. You're right about all those cases, but those were physical abuse.
Absolutely.
This
I don't mean
is
to. I don't
just
mean
an
to.
unwanted.
Right.
You know, it's nowhere near at that level.
Right. Right.
And you know, where's Howard? Where's Howard? His son, good guy, Spike Eskin, was in an awful position because he's on the air at WIP. And after it had happened, he had to come on and say something. I thought he handled it pretty well. I thought he handled it as well as you could. But, you know, I would come forward just so that the burden wouldn't be totally on my son. I would say something.
I know.
Are you going to say that it's a trumped up charge? Maybe it is. I don't know. Where are you on this? If you apologize, you open the floodgates to the women's activists and the sexual harassment thing and that whole thing. If you deny it, you better hope a tape doesn't come out. It's a really bizarre situation.
Do you think the Eagles right now are being proactive in suppressing
I think
what's going on because they want him and they realize on what a great mouthpiece he is and megaphone for that organization? And that's why Odyssey's taken a second seat in this case here. Because this looks to me like this is a case of public opinion and how this thing's going to play itself out. Because if you're telling all the hosts, and I've never heard that, on a radio station that you and Howard and many people, I mean, I'm telling you, Angelo, I can't believe WIP is in the shape that it's in, where you can't express an opinion. This is what we do for a living.
Yes.
I'm not a cheerleader for you. I am a talk show host.
Right.
This is why there's no talk show hosts in the country any longer. It's because you have to be a salesperson. It's really sad to see the state that WIP's in now.
It is to me in this case, because it wouldn't have happened if I were there. It wouldn't have happened in my 4 hours, and they probably wouldn't have fired me because I did it before. I've done it other times when they said we don't talk about this. I was told in a show after the first segment not to talk about Mike Tyson biting off the ear of Evander Holyfield when the whole world was talking about it. And I literally said to my program director, it's in my book, I told him, bleep you, slammed the phone down and did the next 3 hours and 50 minutes on nothing but that. And I didn't do it to avenge him. I did it because it's what people would talk about.
Right.
Your job as a talk show host is to talk about what people are talking about. Now, the one thing you just said there that's interesting is you said, all right, they're waiting to gauge public opinion. All right. Normally where you would gauge it was WIP. But
and the Inquirer, I think, is in on it.
I don't know what the Inquirer's doing.
Because I looked around.
No, Marcus Hayes he's the one guy. He came out and said, this isn't finished. You got work to do here. You haven't dealt with, WIP hasn't dealt with Howard. No, there are people there that are holding people accountable, but nowhere near what would happen 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's not done anymore. And that's your problem, Dan. They're trying to
if you were on the air, you would have opened your show on today. You would have opened your show with this.
The day after, I would have come on and I said, listen, it's no secret that there is a very uncomfortable situation for this radio station. Here is what is being reported. I would then tell where it was reported. Then I would read the statement made by my company, Odyssey. And then I would say what I said in the blog, which is all I could tell you is I am not in a position to pass judgment on what did or didn't happen. But I can tell you, that since the company is on the record having said something did happen that was inappropriate, the company needs to do something, and not banning them from a stadium they don't control. They need to do something on the airwaves, suspension, long suspension, firing, whatever. They need to do something.
Do
And
you
then
think
the
he should
second
be on
part
the
is,
air,
I would
Angelo?
say, the second part is, and this would be the key part, I would say, as uncomfortable as this is, if you want to talk about it, we're here to do it. But understand, we are not going to pass judgment on whether he did this or didn't. We're just going to talk about the ramifications.
You would have people call in and give
I
their
would,
opinion.
I would give them, and I would end that segment with the phone number, and I would give them the number and say, you can call. This is exactly what WIP does not want. And maybe it's because that would, enhance the voice of the people while they're trying to gauge what the public reaction is. But you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to let them talk about that, because they're going to talk about a lot of other stuff, and you can't start making rules on who gets talked about and who doesn't. When you do that, you are basically saying, we are going to suppress your ability to speak if we don't like what you're saying. No, it's called talk radio. You gotta talk.
So in your opinion, you believe that they're shutting down the phone lines and everything else
No,
to try to
that's not an
suppress
opinion.
the avalanche,
That is not an
avalanche of backlash that is, they're trying to outrun this thing here,
I don't
basically, is
know.
what you're saying.
I can't give you a reason why they shut it down, but I can tell you without any hesitation, because I've heard it from a number of people who know that they have shut it down. They will not discuss it.
You think he should be on the air?
Not right now, no. I think he should issue an apology. I think the company, based on what he did, should issue a suspension of however long they think the infraction is worth, and they should not hide behind a ban of a ballpark whose turnstiles they have no control over. That is a bogus way to deal with the situation. You have airwaves, you have legendary broadcaster there. He has done something you acknowledge is wrong, and you have not punished him yourself. You have done nothing. And guys get sexual harassment now is, you're close to on the line of never working again. With
Absolutely.
In this world, Me Too generation, but they're trying to finesse it, and they may succeed. If you had to ask me right now, is this going to work? I would say it might. It might work.
Wow. So
And
you think if he addresses it this weekend and it's done in a right way, would he addresses it? Do you think that'll be enough for the Eagles?
The Eagles are already fine. All right. The Eagles just don't want this to become a bigger thing. All right. The
I can't
Eagles
believe the Philadelphia Eagles are okay with this.
He's got to say something. If he acknowledges that he was wrong, he opens himself up to other problems. All right. If he just gives kind of a blanket apology that doesn't really apologize, if I offended her, I didn't mean to, that kind of wording.
Yep.
I don't think that works. I think you got to fall on the sword, and if you did it, and then there's the issue of whether there's a tape, and if the tape comes out, that it solves all.
There's no way there's not a tape, because, like you
There's a
said,
tape.
right, because they would have took his word over anybody else's word, even an employee. But
You're right.
because there was a tape in the building,
You're right.
that's why they came up with this bogus ass punishment thing, but no suspension.
You're right, Dan. You're 100% right, because it's he said, she said.
Yeah.
And he could say, well, I don't even know what she's talking about. I don't know anything about this. And they go, well, was there a witness? Maybe not. Then there's something more there that they would like not to come out, because then then it's over. Then it's a cause celeb, and then they have to do something.
I have 2 football questions for you, if you don't mind. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
I want to roll into this. I started thinking, because I heard people talking and questioning this offseason about Jalen Hurts' leadership. And I want to give a little history lesson, and you're the perfect guy to help me with this, because I went back and and by the way, whether you like this quarterback or not, it's funny how the media or the organization, how they treat all these quarterbacks. So I went back. McNabb had his leadership questioned by the organization and by the media. Carson Wentz had his leadership questioned by the media. Hell, people forget Nick Foles, Act One, sent his ass to St. Louis for Sam Bradford. Question whether or not that was the right guy in leadership. We come back, obviously, as the greatest substitute teacher of all time and win the Super Bowl. And now here we are with Hurts again, has a dip year, and they question leadership. Is it me, Angelo? But has every quarterback since 2000 have a leadership problem? And is it every guy in the building? Or is this maybe an organizational thing that they like to look at and go, well, hey, okay, McNabb had leadership issues, questioned it. That Wentz, Vic, Michael Vick even, Nick Foles, Act One, now Hurts. It's funny. How come every one of these guys, am I wrong when I say that? Every
No,
one of these guys have been
you can
questioning
go
their
back
leadership.
further. Dan, you can go back to Randall Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham,
Go
too,
back-
right?
well, here's the thing. I've always said this. I still believe it. One of the absolute worst jobs in professional sports is quarterback of the Eagles, because you're under a microscope, right? And everyone is going to question everything. But I'm just going to say what I said before. If that's what they really think is a big deal, then they ain't reading the tea leaves right. Because the big deal is the fact that the defense couldn't cover the pass, that they had two guys as coordinators who didn't know what the hell they were doing, that they got a head coach now who apparently has been lost all power, but remains there for no apparent reason. You understand? They've got so many other issues. They've lost Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick. They've lost some of the best leaders in the clubhouse, and they're worried about the leadership of this poor young man who got destroyed last year because they couldn't pick up the blitz. Destroyed. Damn. He's not your problem.
No.
If he is, he's way low down the list. But you're right that it usually comes up as soon as a quarterback stumbles, just a little stumble. And I go, oh, the other guy came in and they looked like they wanted to play more for him. That was one of the things when Wentz was here. They seem like they're playing much better for Foles. They seem like they like playing for Foles more than for Wentz, which may or may not be true. All I can tell you is it comes up all the time. It has never been less relevant than it is with this young man. He's a leader. He's a winner. Give him a chance. Stop making him the villain when there are 10 other people who deserve way more of the blame than he does.
How about this one? Who's more important to the front office, Nick or Jalen? And I say that with this. They're molding this guy to be the ultimate yes man for the owner and for the general manager. I mean, anybody who watched this, Angelo, if I put his resume down, I would go like this. Well, hell, that's pretty good. But if I gave you the eyeball test and looked at it, and I'd go like this. Have you watched that guy coach? He can't coach. He's not qualified. It does his visual on the sidelines doesn't match his resume. You would never hire him if you didn't look at the resume by his sideline antics and how he conducts himself. So to me, though, like you just said, he's there for a reason. Who's more important, do you think? Say they have a good year this year, not a great year. Hurts has a decent year. Who will they move on from? Hurts or Nick?
They will move on from Nick. All right. But, this is the thing about you, Dan. That's why I love coming on your show. Sometimes you're such a genius, you don't even realize it. All right. Do you understand? You just outlined the same story as Howard Eskin. The Philadelphia Eagles place a great value on yes men. on people who do their bidding, people who are publicly saying all nice things about them. Sirianni is there now with one basic responsibility, to handle the news conferences. And they all know he will kiss their ass at every opportunity, which is exactly the same thing that Howard Eskin has done for 20 years. They will value that to the extent that they will risk the public wrath for sexual harassment. And they will risk the public wrath that you brought back a coach that presided over the worst collapse in the team's history. They value yes men. They love to be told they're right, even when they're not.
Well, they got the ultimate HR hold-em-in, Bob Lang, in the building there, running PR in the building. I mean, hey, don't believe what you're hearing. Believe me.
Yeah.
I
Wait
mean it.
for my next statement. My next big statement will tell all that there needs to be told.
Oh, I can't tell people where they can read that fabulous blog of yours. And by the way, the book too, folks, don't forget. Also, it's on audio too. So make sure you can go to Amazon and you can find it there as well. Angelo's kind. If he likes you, he'll sign it. So here you go right here. Angelo, tell the folks how they can find your fabulous blog.
Yeah, it's AngeloCataldi.com, and I'm doing a blog thing at least once a week, and I'm talking about whatever you're talking about. And unlike WIP, I really don't have any boundaries. I will talk about whatever it is, because there shouldn't be. It's a free country, and it's free speech.
And I love the fact that they're quoting you now in the Inquirer. I'm like, you know what, man? Hey, you know what, Angelo? When I see you, I'm like, you know that scene from Godfather 3? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back.
When my wife saw it, she said to me, Dan, wow, your bosses are not going to like you. And I said, this just in, they never did.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much, Angelo. Folks, please, again, get the book. The book is absolutely fabulous. Talks about his connection with his audience, what he was talking about today more so than anything. I don't even think he has a problem with a lot of the things. He has a problem with transparency not being there on WIP, because that's what made that station the #1 sports talk station in America, and it started with Angelo in the morning. Angelo, have a great day, my friend. Thank you so much for finding time for me.
Anytime.
Thank you. Our good friend Angelo Cataldi. Please hit the like button. Lori's controlling the situation, Barb? You think? Please hit the like button. So the Eagles are in a wait and see. Wow. Or my boss is going to get a massive call today. I wouldn't be shocked if they are now. You're more mad that we talked about it than the actual crime, allegedly. We'll reset. Where are we in the like list right now, Xander? Just don't get whacked. Where are we in the like list right now? We're trying to get to 200, my friends. Where are we? Help us out here, man, where we're in the like list. 123. Let's try to get to 200. All right, my friends. Let's try to hit that thing here. We got 1 hour to go here. Let's see if we can get that. Okay. PR will be calling, right, Jace? We'll reset. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.